What is up, guys? Welcome back. It is time again to take a look at Dragon's B10 because I recently made a updated Giants B10 guide, and I did say in the video that I was going to make a Dragon's B10 and then eventually a Necros B10 full guide as well. So this is my Dragon's B10 guide. I'm gonna throw in the revive team. For those of you that have like watched me for a long time or have seen the old video from I guess almost a year ago, probably have seen this. Like this is the revive strategy. Actually, wait, I need to find Kona. Where's Kona? Kona and Spectra. I'm gonna actually put in Spectra. Maybe I should put in Bernard. Bernard's probably easier to obtain than Spectra. But if you have Spectra, I think Spectra would be slightly better. Alright, so we're just gonna go in with this team, and this is the this team is the team I use or used to use for autoing Dragon's B10. I mean, and what you want to do here is you want to set the boss battle to right crystal and then boss, and then it should be able to fully auto Dragon's B10 no problem. So what do you need for a team like this? You don't need the exact same units, but the strategy behind this team is to target the right crystal first, kill it, and then bring a reviver, someone that has some sort of revive, and then revive whoever killed the crystal, because the dragon has this second skill that kills whoever kills the crystal, pretty much. It doesn't necessarily kill, but it does like a really high damage, like 30k nuke or something like that, to whoever killed the crystal. So if you kill the crystal, there's a very high chance that, you know, if you bring a DPS unit or any other unit that isn't like a healer or something, probably is going to die in one hit. Anyone that isn't built like fully tanky probably will die in one hit from the dragon's second skill. So like Feral, Bella, Kona, Bernard, I think even McKean would probably die in one hit from the second skill if she happens to kill the crystal. But I set up this team in a way where I can basically four-man the boss even if McKean does kill the crystal. This way it's pretty much 100% clear rate, like it doesn't fail at all. And even if someone dies during the level, McKean can revive them, so that's why the clear rate of this team is very high. This is my most recommended type of team for anyone that's starting Dragon's B10. And then someone just pulled it free. I think, you know, this doesn't really count as a Nat 5 pull, but still, like, everyone's just summoning whenever I'm recording. Or maybe it's just that everyone's always summoning and I'm only paying attention when I'm recording. So basically, what you want in a team like this is to have one person that can revive. Obviously, that's why this is the revive strategy. You want to have a main healer. I choose Bella because Bella is pretty obtainable. Bella is probably my one of my more reliable healers, besides Praha. But then again, not everyone has Praha, so I decided to use Bella. This is mostly farmable. Kona is serving as I guess my main cleanser, I would say, because Kona does have like a stronger cleanse than Veramos. Although Veramos should be able to cleanse by himself pretty well if I fit in another monster that provides some sort of turn advantage. And then I have Veramos here, obviously, to cleanse as well. And he also provides dots. Dots are pretty important for the strategy. It makes the run a lot safer. You can do it without dots, but it will take a lot longer, and your success rate might not be that good because there's just more chances of like weird random things happening if the fight drags on too long. And Bernard is here to provide turn advantage. He's here just for the speed buff and for the attack bar fill, just to get my team more turns than the enemy. So you can switch out any of these units. None of these units are mandatory. They're completely like 100% replaceable. You can replace them with any other unit that does a similar job, and you don't even need to really worry about debuffs in this fight because the dragon, most of the time, he's going to have immunity on, so there's no way to really debuff him, so you can't really rely on debuffs to you know, kind of negate his damage or anything like that. But thankfully the dragon doesn't actually even hit as hard as the giant, so you just want to be able to have good enough stats to tank the dragon's damage, and have everyone just fast enough to, you know, heal back the damage, and your reviver and someone just summon a dragon. See, whenever I'm recording, everyone pulls Nat 5s. This is just how it works. So, you know, should like secretly stalk me, and then when I'm recording, you summon all your scrolls, and then you pull free Zyros. That's how you do it, guys. And okay, so what you want to do is we're going to see in a moment who kills this crystal. I think it's going to be one person, or if you're lucky, the crystal will die from dots. So I think Veramos is going to die this turn because the dot's going to kill him. But I have McKeen here who's going to revive Veramos really quickly. Probably the next turn. Alright, so Veramos is revived. Bella should have his heal ready soon, and Bella healed Veramos up. And then now the dragon doesn't have any immunity on him. So we kill the immunity tower, he no longer has immunity on him. We're going to armor break him and then just keep stacking dots with Veramos. And hopefully Bernard can put an attack debuff, although it's not really needed. If he puts the attack debuff on the boss, then the dragon's going to be doing a lot less damage as well. But he is wind, so it does glance a lot, so there's a very low chance of him actually putting the attack debuff on the boss, but you don't need to really rely on it. Any of these units are replaceable, so you can use any reviver, anyone that has a revive skill, any healer that can sustain a team by itself, any strong healer. You know, if you have a Chasun, if you have like Ariel, if you can just use like Bella, or if you happen to have like Amin. I don't think anyone uses Amin anymore. But you know, Amin would work as well. Like a full HP rune Talc probably can do it. Or if you have, maybe Colleen can sustain a team by herself. I think Colleen should be able to do it as well. But I think most people have Bella. Like Bella is pretty easy to obtain. You just get them from Light Day, you know, farming secret dungeons and stuff. And then Kona is also farmable. Kona you can replace with anyone that has cleanse or immunity. But you do need at least one cleanser, like one person that can cleanse debuffs. So Veramos is a really good choice. Veramos fills 2 roles. He also provides the dots. You can do it without dots, but it's a lot more risky and it takes a lot longer to do. We're gonna run it again with a similar team, just the same concept but different monsters. So this time I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna put in someone that provides immunity instead. Delphoy is also a really good choice because Delphoy provides immunity and she also removes at the same time, and she has a small healing which can help your team survive. I'm gonna put in Colleen. I think Colleen's a pretty good idea. We're gonna test to see if Colleen can sustain a team by herself. If this works, then you can use Colleen as well. Alright, so we're gonna do this again with Delphoy and Colleen. Delphoy I would say is slightly better than Kona. Although she's wind, it doesn't really matter. If you can get your units tanky enough, it doesn't matter what element they are. Because you know all that really matters is they're gonna, you know, the dragon and the Zyros might be critting your wind units a lot more, or focusing on your wind units a lot more, but you can actually use that to your advantage, because that way they're not attacking your reviver, and even if your tanky wind unit dies, then it's still fine, because your reviver can just revive them afterwards. If you're running Brian, then you know, Brian's like just super tanky. If you rune him like just really tanky, there's no way that he's gonna die from the Zyros or the boss. So it doesn't matter what element that you're using in this dungeon. Just mainly because the units actually don't do that much damage. The dragon actually doesn't do as much damage as the giant, you know, after the buff and stuff. So you don't really need to rely on putting debuffs on the dragon. Just have good enough stats, tank through the damage. Because he's gonna have immunity, so you can't always stack debuffs on him. And I would say dragons is slightly harder than giants because of the immunity buff. Although the dragon doesn't do as much damage as the giant, he still does a lot of damage. So you need to have better stats. Most of your units need to have better stats than your giant's team. Your beginner giants team. So I would say, like, at the very least maybe 20k HP, you know, 1k defense. I think that's pretty fair. And then speed is also very important in dragons, because turn advantage helps your team get more turns, helps your team sustain, and then it's also very useful against the mid boss Zyros, because if you have a lot of turn advantage, you can get more turns, and even if he resets your healers, if you can get like 3 turns more than him, then you can just heal up anyways afterwards. So you just need to have like a good balance of speed, tankiness, and I think that's pretty much it. I wouldn't say accuracy is super important because there's not a lot of debuffs to land in this fight except for your dots and stuff. So it's mostly about like defensive stats and speed. That's the main requirements for Dragon's B10. And you pretty much want to make sure everyone has, like, if they're on Violent, maybe at the very least like 150 speed. I wouldn't go any lower. 160 should be pretty easy to achieve on Violent. If you're on Swift, like 190 speed, um, shouldn't be that hard to achieve, or maybe like just 180 something, because Swift usually adds like 20 something speed depending on your unit space speed. Yeah, so for most of you that are farming like Giants for a while, I would recommend you just farm Giants for a while, get a lot of good 6-star runes, and like a good Swift sets, energy sets and stuff on your units, and then afterwards you can throw them into dragons. You don't necessarily need Violent, because if you need Violence to farm dragons, then there's no way you can start farming dragons, because dragons is where you get the Violent runes. But most Giants B10 teams should be able to do at least Dragons B9. Although I wouldn't really recommend farming Dragons B9 for a long time, because over the long run B10 does give better runes, and you should spend a little bit of time in Giants, because the spare Swift energy sets are like pretty important. I would say they're still very, very strong for most PvE situations like TOA and stuff. Like the spare and energy sets are very, very useful in TOA as well. So Swift and the spare sets are still very good, so that's why you should still spend a little bit of time farming Giants before you start farming dragons. And eventually you do switch back and forth, farm dragons sometimes, farm Giants sometimes, depending on what type of runes you need. And yeah, we're just gonna see if Colleen can sustain this by herself. My Colleen's actually on accuracy on 6. I'm gonna show all the runes to my units after all the runs. And then you can kind of see their stats. My Colleen doesn't have like the best HP. She has like 1 HP rune that's not even maxed out, so she's pretty squishy. But it does look like she's able to sustain the team kind of by herself. Delphoid does provide a small heal as well, but that's only every 4 turns. Colleen has a 3-turn cooldown on her heal, which is, I would say, quite fast. So, and also I'm running McKeen, because McKeen has a small heal as well when she uses her second skill. But I don't have her skilled up, so it's gonna probably like be a 4-turn cooldown or something like that. Alright, this looks pretty stable. So this is the general idea behind the team. You just want to have maybe just 2 people to remove debuffs. I would say 2 to be safe. You could also run a second healer. Like if you don't have a second unit that can remove debuffs, maybe stack 2 healers. You might be able to heal back the damage that you take from the dots, and then run a main healer, either like Bella or Colleen or someone better, someone rarer that some of you might have. And then Veramos is really good because he has dots and he has remove. He fills 2 roles, and then a reviver, of course, because you need to revive to be able to do the strategy. And some monster that provides some sort of turn advantage. Bernard is really nice for that because he can provide the speed buff, and since the dragon isn't affected by slow and stuff, I would say speed buff would be slightly superior to slow, because you can still speed your team up even though you can't slow the enemy down. But if you have Spectra, I would say if you have a well-runed Spectra, I would still use Spectra, because Spectra has a really good second skill that can do % base damage to the tower and to the dragon, so you can get much faster runs if you're running Spectra. So that's pretty much it. I'll probably I'm not sure if I should go over like unit replacements, because there's a lot of different monsters that you can use in Dragons B10. It's kind of different from Giants, because in Giants when you're starting Giants B10, your runes aren't very good, and there aren't that many good monsters that you can use besides like the obvious Shannon Bernard and all that. When you're first starting Giants B10 and only have access to like 4-star runes and stuff. But in Giants, after you farm Giants, I mean, when you're farming Dragons, you already farm Giants and you have access to really good like 6-star Swift runes and energy runes and stuff. You can rune up pretty much any unit the way you want it. So it doesn't matter if what element they are, what base stats they are, as long as they fill the role, it will work. So you just kind of need to understand the strategy and then build a team around it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, like, can I run this unit to fill a certain role? If I run this team, will it work? And then, or if I want to choose between, Bernard and Spectra, who should I use, or something like that. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I'm always happy to answer them. And I'm going to show the stats of this team really quick, and then I'm going to go over a different strategy. So Kona is on speed, HP, HP. These are his stats. Violent, endure, and McKeen is on defense, crit rate, HP. I do the the high crit rate build for the freeze. You don't necessarily need to do this. You just need to build your reviver as tanky as possible. I wouldn't say this is very good for Dragon's B10, but it's usable. And it's just good enough. You don't need like super good stats. And where is my barrel? I actually probably go over Bella. Bella is just like speed, HP, HP, violent, guard. Baramos is violent, nemesis, speed, defense, HP, and I can't remember who else I use. I use Bernard, I think. Violent. This is just swift, broken, random runes, speed, HP, defense. As you can see, I have most of my units on 1 slot defense rather than like 2 slot HP, because in PvE, if they don't have armor break, having a good balance of HP and defense is actually better. This way you can tank up the damage better, having higher defense. So we're gonna go over no. I don't even have a credit card binded to this. Alright, we're gonna go over a second strategy. This is the AoE dot strategy. I kind of just showed you the stats just as an example. You don't really need really good stats to be able to run this. They're on really crappy runes because I rarely use these units anymore. Except for Colleen, I use her in raids. She's actually had some pretty good runes. And I don't think I showed her stats, but I did show Bella's stats. It's kind of the same, doesn't really matter. I'm gonna run a different strategy. This one is the AoE dot strategy. So if you have anyone that has some sort of AoE dot, like Bretta, Thrain, Hemos, Zyros, you can do this. I only recommend the strategy if you happen to have really good, just a good dot monster like Bretta, Zyros, Thrain, Hemo, someone that has like multiple AoE dots, and you already have them 6-starred and raised, or else you should be working on the revive strategy, because this strategy is not as stable, not as reliable, and probably not as fast. So we're gonna run basically Bretta, a healer, 2 healers, and then 2 cleansers. And I'm gonna use Bretta's speed leader for the turn advantage, because I'm running 2 healers. So I don't have any sort of turn advantage, but my units are usually like ruined with some speed. All my units are speed on 2, so they all have a little bit of speed. They can outspeed the towers at the very least, and any damage I take I can heal back with my 2 healers. This strategy is not as stable because there's a lot of different factors that can, like a lot of different things that can happen that can cause the team to wipe. One of the things is the mid boss Zyros. If he happens to do something really crazy, like the side towers armor break you, and then he flame breathes your healers, resets them, and since I don't have any sort of turn advantage, the tower armor breaks the one guy again and then kills him off, and I'm left with 4 units to do the boss. I might not be able to finish off the boss with just 4 units. So there's some risk. There's also the risk of when you're fighting the boss, you actually have Bella. Bella, since he has C's, removes the immunity buff. I actually need to set this to boss. I kind of forgot to do that. I'll explain the boss fight when we actually get to it. But the basics of this strategy is just you set the auto to the boss, and then you have Bretta use his AoE dots to kill the side towers. And since the boss has immunity, he's not going to be taking any damage from dots. And the side towers are going to die before the boss reaches 30% HP and doesn't enrage and doesn't do like crazy damage. And then once the towers die, he loses his immunity buff, and then you can go in and dot him up and kill him. So one of the ways that it can fail is, since Bella has C's, he might remove the immunity from the boss, and then Bretta might happen to go right after with his Phoenix Fury, stacks 2 dots on the boss, 2 3-turn dots, and then Vermos like goes right after, violent procs a few times, stacks like 3 more dots on the boss, and then all of a sudden the boss has like 5 or 6 dots, and then he happens to go afterwards and takes the damage from the dots, loses like 30% HP, and all of a sudden he's gonna have like lower HP than the towers, and then he reaches 30% before the towers actually die, and then you start taking a lot of damage. For those that don't know, like when he reaches 30% HP, the boss does a lot more damage, so you kind of want to have the towers die before he gets to that point. And it doesn't always happen since Bella can remove and stuff. And I think since Colleen has attack buff, your units might be doing a lot more damage to the boss. So there's always some risk involved when you're running the strategy, but it's definitely viable if you happen to have all the units raised to do this. Or else I would still just recommend you do the revive strategy because it's a lot safer. If someone dies throughout the level, you can just revive them, and you pretty much, like, if your team can sustain through the normal damage of the boss, you kill the tower, there's no risk of the boss reaching 30% HP and enraging and stuff. So it's pretty stable. Like if you're running the revive team, it's completely stable compared to this team. Like right now, Beretta still hasn't used his turbulence, not turbulence, his Phoenix Fury at all. Oh, there's also the risk of Beretta missing the dots on the boss, on the side towers I mean. If he misses too much, the dragon might reach 30% HP before the towers actually die. So there's a lot of different things that can make this fight go wrong. So yeah, this is a little bit dangerous, I would say, but at the very least, if you're not able to auto giant Dragon's B10 and you happen to have a Beretta 6-star and some healers and stuff, you might want to temporarily run this for Dragon's B10 until you can raise the reviver to 6-star and then run the other strategies. As you can see, this fight is actually taking longer, and there's a very high chance that the dragon's going to reach 30% HP before the side towers actually die, because of how Beretta missed the first turn of dots, and Bella seized and armor broke the boss, and the boss is taking a lot of damage. But we'll see what happens. We'll just see how this fight goes on. Yeah, the towers are not dying that fast, and the dragon's very, very quickly reaching 30%. I think there's only like, he's already at 40%, 10% more and he'll be at 30%. And the side towers still have like half of their HP bar. If Beretta can do Phoenix Fury one more time, land 2 dots on the side towers, 5 dots, no, that's 6 dots, still not enough to kill the side tower. So the side tower still needs 2 turns before it can actually die. The boss is reaching 30% very, very soon. But if the side tower gets one more turn, I think it's over now. Since the side tower is probably, oh shit, the dragon has one more turn of immunity. This is a little bit bad. Alright, Bella needs to seize the boss right now and then put armor break on him, or else our team's going to be in trouble very soon. But this looks pretty good. We have attack debuff on the boss. Good job, Colleen. Now the boss isn't going to be doing that much damage. And then we reduce his attack bar and stacked a few dots on him and have him armor broken. Okay, so I would say this is a somewhat close fight. It could have wiped if things didn't go properly. But thankfully Colleen did put the attack debuff on the boss, so we took a lot less damage. And that's just the basics of the AoE dot strategy for Dragon's B10. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I'm going to actually just show the runes on Beretta. Beretta is just the spare energy, speed, HP, accuracy. Still don't have this rune maxed out. I actually don't know why. And the final strategy is obviously, wait, we're in the wrong dungeon. The final strategy is to obviously go straight for the dragon. There's a lot of ways you can do this. Some people can actually do it without any healers. Some people need to sustain and heal. But the general idea is to have a lot of turn advantage. So you want to be fast. I use Verd for this. I can't really show any other teams because this is my usual Dragon's B10 team that I use to farm. And it looks a little bit like this. This is my usual Dragon's B10 team. So the idea is to have a lot of turn advantage, be able to go a lot of turns before the enemy can move throughout the stage and throughout the boss level. And you want to have multiple people, or at least one. You at least need one unit that can remove the immunity buff from the dragon. I use two, this way it's if one of them fails, the other one can remove it as well. Bella and Megan both have the ability to remove debuffs, so they can remove the immunity buff from the boss, and we're basically relying on them to remove the buffs, armor break the boss, and then everyone else just does damage to the boss. I don't have any nukers, but everyone does a little bit of damage, and Veramos and Megan does have some dots, so the dragon can die from dots. Spectra has this HP scaling second skill, so it's going to be doing a lot more damage to boss monsters. So that's why I'm able to do this and run this team without any sort of nuker, and it's still relatively fast. It's not the fastest, it's around 3 minutes ish. 3 minutes ish on average. And it's pretty reliable, like I would say like over 98% success rate ish, kind of. I never did any testing or like calculations, but it does wipe sometimes. There's always the risk of it wiping when you're running a team like this, but it's reliable enough that I can use it to farm dragons all the time without anything really bad happening. Wait, I think Bird might die. Please, please no. Please no. Please no kill Bird. Alright, we're good. We're good. My Verd doesn't have the best runes right now. I actually like switch his runes around. That's why it looks like he's dying a bit. But I'm still able to farm it like most of the time. It just happened to armor broke Verd that time. But even if it did armor break my like pretty much squishiest monster on the team, I was still fine. I run everything tanky for this team. I can't really run any nukers. I'm not at that stage yet. Once you get to that stage, you'll kind of know what to do yourself, how to run a full nuke team without any healers. But I'm not really there yet. You pretty much need a lot of turn advantage as well, combined with a lot of attack to be able to kill the dragon in like 1 or 2 turns. But for this team, it's a lot slower, but it's still very reliable, still decently fast. So we're just going straight for the dragon. Veramos is fast enough to be able to remove dots by himself. He's going to remove 1 dot every turn he goes. He's also on Violent, so if he Violent procs, he can remove 2 dots. And then we have this Spectra for AoE slow. So Spectra is going to AoE slow the towers, meaning the side immunity towers are going to be debuffing or buffing up the boss a lot less. And then we're just going to keep the immunity buff off of him, and just armor break him, do damage, and stack as many dots on him as possible. So he's going to be taking some damage from dots, some damage from my units like basic attacks, and some damage from Spectra's second skill, which is pretty much a nuke. It does like probably around like 10% of his HP if it crits. If it doesn't crit, it does like 5% ish, as you saw just now. Still did like 10k, which is pretty good for a monster that's ruined like full tanky. So I have 2 people removing debuffs, so every single time he's just losing a lot of debuffs and stuff, or he's losing his immunity buff all the time. And that's pretty much it. That's like how I went straight for the dragon. There's a lot of different teams. You can combine a lot of different elements. Like some people, they run a team that's slightly faster, more speed substats, and they take out Verd because they don't have Verd, and then they throw in another nuker, and that works for them, like possibly Sigmaris or something like that. And that works for them, but you kind of need to speed tune your team to be able to be fast enough to do that. Verd is not the fastest, like plus 83 speed, Violent Blade, speed, crit rate, HP, and where's my other units? Megan is like Swift, Broken Set, speed, HP, accuracy, and then Spectra is, where's my Spectra? Spectra is Swift, Focus, speed, defense, HP. I ruined my Spectra with really low accuracy. I get the question all the time, like, does Spectra need a lot of accuracy? Like, why does your Spectra only have 34%? Spectra's third skill actually only has a 50% chance to land. So I don't see much point in stacking a lot of accuracy. I would rather have Spectra have higher speed, and be able to spam the skill more versus having higher accuracy. And that's why I ruined my Spectra this way, just to, you know, with a focus set and some substats, giving him like 30 something percent so he can land it sometimes, and then speed to be able to spam it all the time. He's not the fastest, but his runes make him pretty tanky, and I rune him like this for TOA. It works pretty well, and it works for dragons as well. So that's pretty much it for my Spectra, and I think that's the basics of a Dragon's B10 team. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask them below. I'm always happy to answer questions, and you know, if you have any questions about like, can I run this, can I run that, can I replace this unit with that unit, if you understand the strategy, you'll know what to do. Like, it'll work, because the dragon fight is very gimmicky. It's not as straightforward as the giant fight. It's not about like debuffing, damage, removing and stuff. It's more about like utility and stuff. Like, can I revive, or can I you know, tank through the damage with stats, and then remove debuffs and then heal back and stuff like that. So it's mostly about like having enough speed, having enough defense and HP on all your units, and having the right units with the right skills to do the job. Yeah, if you have any questions, if you have any friends that like are doing Dragon's B10, you can, you know, show them this video, and hopefully all of you guys can do Dragon's B10 in the near future. This is my updated guide. This is probably for like newer viewers. I will be working on a Necros guide very soon once I rune up everything on free rune removal day, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.